당해하게 될 거야.
Frontman decides to open Season 2 with a direct slam on our choice to send the English dub of Season 1. Seems odd to single us out, but I respect it. In light of that, and not at all because the comment section would throw us in its own Squid Game if we repeated that choice, we'll be sending this season in the original South Korean. Now here's a preemptive sin, just in case the Netflix subtitles mistranslate any of our precious torture porn and post-capitalist ennui. Gi-hun finds a tracker behind his ear, but the fact that he's completely naked suggests that he chose to start his search at the bottom and work his way up. You know, instead of checking the bits of him that were already naked first. Escaping from a series of deadly games only to die from an infection caused by a gas station knife you forgot to sterilize.
5분만 있다 와줄래?
Sure, mister, but make sure you enjoy them because every minute after that will be spent explaining why you exposed yourself to a minor to a selection of interested officials and eventually your cellmates. Character survives being shot and falling off a cliff into water. Cliché.
아이씨, 이거 함정 단속 아니에요?
Easy there, Better Call Saul. It's only entrapment if this cop turned up at your house and forced you at gunpoint to ride around town without your helmet.
야, 너 그 짭새 새끼랑 경찰차 타고 와!
Getting mad at your co-pilot for trying to help you get out of a ticket. Also, riding off without your helmet, which is what you were just ticketed for, and thereby opening yourself up to a second ticket further down the road.
증거라고 해봐야 네 어깨에 박혀있던 거 추적도 안 되는 총알 뿐인데 그걸 되겠냐? 거기다가 너 이 새끼 총기까지 무단 반출해서 단독으로 움직이다가 갑자기 산송장이 돼서 나타난 거야.
Seasoning your noodles position with far too much previously on Squid Game sake.
신호 위반, 속도 위반, 헬멧 미착용. 그냥 사진으로 딱딱 찍어서 보여주니까 범인들이 아주 꼼짝을 못하네요.
Underestimating the human ability to dispute facts. Important character who just got shot in the shoulder shoots another important character in the shoulder. Cliché. Alright, maybe that's not specifically a cliché, but a lot of conveniently non-fatal shooting is going on here is all I'm saying.
장사 안 해요?
Trying this hard to stay at a place you plan to be unconscious in when the customer service of said establishment doesn't stretch to letting people in when they're open.
잘 됐네. 간판에 불 꺼지면 만실이야. 딴 데 가자.
누가 그런 걸 어떻게 알아?
Yeah. However did she learn the basic workings of a motel? Who taught her this ancient and arcane knowledge? Perfectly valid objection, sir. No sin here.
누구야?
Splashing out on this much surveillance gear, but skimping on the peephole contingent.
이걸 찾고 있나?
Misplacing your severed heads. Oh, the tension-quashing joy. It was all a dream. Seriously, dream fakeouts should be banished from television until we find a responsible way to use them that doesn't result in the undermining of dramatic moments going forward. Now, whenever something f***ed up happens, there's at least 10% of my brain braced for it to be a dream. And that's the 10% I usually dedicate to worrying about the comment section. Also, am I supposed to believe his brain drew up that complete scenario with the couple in the beginning? How can Gi-hun's self-esteem be so low that he's not even present in the establishing shots of his own dreams? Also, if you have more money than God, why not buy up an abandoned office block? Why buy a hotel that random people might try to get into?
지하철 전라인 동시에요. 그렇게까지 하려면 인건비가 좀 만만치가 않은데.
I ran the numbers, and the amount of people Gi-hun would need searching these platforms to guarantee he'd find the recruiter is precisely 456 loads more people than the number needed to trigger the recruiter into realizing he's being hunted. You can check my math. I use GIFs and everything.
너도 알잖아. 요 몇 년 사이에 내 돈 꼬간 놈들 거의 다 흔적도 없이 사라진 거.
I was gonna sin how no one has noticed all the people that died and went missing because of the Squid Games until I discovered that a Squid Game's worth of people are reported as missing every week in South Korea. So the sin here is that there actually aren't enough Squid Games happening in Squid Game to explain all those missing people. Yep, that's what my brain took from that.
그 돈꾼 연놈들이 어디 섬에 죄다 끌려가갖고 애들이 하는 게임 하다가 죽었다고 한다는 게.
Being paid an obscene amount of money to do a dumb job and then complaining about how dumb the job is.
어디로 모실까요, 황 선장님? 1년 반 동안 가볼 만한 데는 다 가본 것 같은데 계속 가시자고 하니까 이제 나도 잘 모르겠습니다.
Jumping ahead 2 years allows for all kinds of fun character development to happen, but the fact that it happens off-screen means we're now burdened by conversations that unnaturally refer back to everyone on the show already knows just so we can get caught up. If only there was a solution. Like, not waiting 3 years to release your next 7 episodes. Also, we'll find out that there are plenty of islands left to explore, so the argument you're actually looking for here is I haven't worked for 2 years, used up all of my savings, and now I need to start feeding my family again.
아휴, 내가 왜 물에 빠진 놈을 건져가지고 보따리까지 차돌피게 되나. 아이고, 내 팔자야.
Complaining about being a good person.
지금부터 우리가 찾아야 될 사람은 바로
I am sinning this mannequin for both looking too much and not enough like the recruiter, and you know exactly what I mean.
저도 이제 대기 장소로 이동하겠습니다. 계속 연락 주세요.
I I'm sure it's a spot that's in a good central location and is in no way going to prevent him from... Guys, why is he parked on a rooftop? Scene does not contain a single cop responding to reports of a clearly organized group of men assaulting passengers all day, every day on the same train line. Also, aren't they supposed to be observing and then reporting back to Gi-hun? What if this had been the man they were looking for and they spooked him?
성김 이 새끼가 아무리 미쳤어도 이치도 않는 놈 찾겠다고 수억을 뿌려가면서 이렇게까지 하겠나 싶다.
Underestimating how much money rich people are willing to waste. Honestly, it's a subject I could tweet about for X amount of hours.
아이 진짜 딱지를 치는 놈이 있었으면 우리가 진지게.
It's amazing that one of the qualifications to be a Squid Game recruiter is having dramatic timing like this. That must make hiring for the position extremely difficult. How do you even begin to hone that skill? I have no idea what these two are doing on this bench. I could assume they're spying on the recruiter, but they aren't wearing overcoats and they haven't cut any eye holes in the newspaper. They're basically invisible. I refuse to believe that every single person he handed that coin to gave it back. Someone would have tried to run off with it.
야, 왜 우린 안 주냐?
Complaining that you don't look homeless enough.
저는 선생님께 기회를 드렸고 선생님은 선택을 했습니다.
I think the implication here is that the bread is the correct answer. But if I'm homeless, what good is a single piece of bread going to do me over possibly having enough money to buy a house? This guy's just a dick. He might as well just be filming this beast of a challenge for his YouTube channel. Also, what was the point of this? He's not recruiting anyone for the games. He's the recruiter, and yet I see no recruiting happening here.
성사장, 지금 어디야? 오고 있어?
Much like a plot wizard, he'll arrive exactly when he intends to and just in time to be of no use. Getting shot off an island and becoming a traffic cop, all to randomly run into Gi-hun again after all these years. And on top of that, on the first traffic stop you decide to let the rookie do. What are the odds? Juno should grab one of those scratch-offs on his way to his next contrivance.
자식은 결혼했다고 몸살이냐?
Thinking that single people hold a monopoly on cowardice. Bringing a briefcase to a knife fight. Bringing a briefcase to a knife fight and winning. Also, I get that they're waiting for Gi-hun, but why didn't they call for backup from all the other goons? At this point, they're just hanging around subway stations being paid to look for a man that's already been found. The recruiter is just subdued and presumably carried two grown men into a building without a drop of sweat on his brow or a single hair out of place.
법인요? 어디입니까?
햇빛 캐피탈이라고 되어 있네요.
거기 주소 좀 부탁합니다.
Wow, the customer service in South Korea is so good that it supersedes the need for a warrant.
여러분들이 하실 게임은 가위, 어이고 하나 빼기입니다. 아시죠?
I do not. Is it Godzilla based?
아마 영화에서 보신 적이 있으실 겁니다. 러시안 룰렛이라고.
Over 40 minutes in and we're finally playing a game. Which makes me happy. But it took over 40 minutes. Which makes me sinful.
자, 그럼 제가 신호를 드리겠습니다. 거기에 맞춰서 내주세요.
It's a welcome break from an exposition-heavy catch-up episode, but what is this game in aid of? Between this and the bread, is he getting paid to torture random toughs and homeless people? What part of the recruitment process is this? Or did someone feel Squid Game needed to be a bit more squigsaw?
조금 지루한 감이 없지 않아 있네요.
Yeah, but that's what happens when you bloat each episode to 60 minutes when they'd be better served with a tight 45-minute runtime. Gi-hun is faced with the man he's been searching for 2 years and decided to have a pleasant chat instead of immediately pulling a gun on him.
게임에서 탈락한 놈을 쏘려고 하는데 이게 얼굴이 낯이 익은 거예요. 누군지 알아요? 우리 아빠.
William Shakespeare's Squid Game.
너 따위는 절대로 알 수도 이해할 수도 없어. 내가 어떻게 거기서 살아나왔는지 그 게임을 하는 게 어떤 기분이지.
Lee Jung-jae clearly hasn't lost a step between the first and second seasons. He's still a damn powerful actor, stealing every scene he's in. One sent off for a hell of a tortured performance.
저랑 게임 한번 하시죠.
Copyright infringement is how one ends up in a far more puzzling game with 100% more dolls on tricycles.
이제 성기훈 씨가 죽을 확률은 2분의 1.
So about the same odds as driving in New York City.
아마 지금 이런 생각이 들 거예요. 총은 내 손에 있어. 게임의 룰이고 뭐고 방아쇠를 한 번 아니면 2번만 당기면 저놈의 면상을 날릴 수 있어.
Yeah, why would the main character do something sensible instead of playing by a maniac's rules? Perish the thought.
이거 하나만 인정해. 넌 그저 가면을 뒤집어 쓰고 주인님이 시키는 대로 뛰고 짖고 꼬리나 흔드는
Kink shaming.
규칙이고 뭐고 이제 이 방아쇠를 한 번만 당기면
He died doing what? Why? But he was in control of the gun, right? Wait, why was he playing a fucking game in the first place? And then he just shot himself? For no good reason other than following the rules? Who hired this fucking genius? Because they're going in the Squid Game next. What a fucking calamity. The recruiter's boss, presumably. Gi-hun's hideaway hotel is suddenly unlocked and open to anyone looking to start their vacation with some pre-Squid Gaming. Convenient elevator that keeps the number of the floor it stopped on long enough so that the person trying to track you down sees it is convenient. Add, can fire extinguishers explode if I need to use one to break down a door, to my weirdly specific Google research history. At this point, my response to the FBI when they inevitably raid my home will be, what took you so long, and by any chance did the fire extinguisher explode when you used it to knock my door in? How does Woo-suk know this? Did the salesman whisper the location of their meeting to him for some reason? Also, why is he there? Why is he even alive? How did the salesman get him there? The salesman doesn't have a car because he took a taxi last episode. Did he just lead him across town on a leash? I have questions. Woo-suk will now knock out the man who just f***ing saved his life with a fire extinguisher for Gi-hun, who, once again, he has never actually f***ing met. Cursing out a dead man, or at the very least, cursing out a dead man without Whoopi Goldberg there to let the ghost know how f***ing angry you really are. It's amazing enough that the previous episode got such emotional payoff of a game of rock, paper, scissors. At this point, Squid Game is just testing its luck and starting to make me regret I felt anything about this bullshit the first time through. Putting was on brain detail when Gi-hun is more responsible for the brain matter all over the wall in the first place.
아까 당신이 죽인 사람은 누구야?
그놈은 게임에 들어갈 참가자를 모으는 모집책이야. 하지만 내가 죽인 건 아니야. 그놈이 게임에서 쳤을 뿐이야.
Gi-hun has an odd way of saying he shot himself.
그놈을 알아?
가면들은 그자를 대장이라고 불러.
Saying this as if it will be helpful instead of just saying, no, I do not know who he is.
얼굴을 봤어?
아니, 얼굴은 몰라. 검은 가면 쓰고 있었어.
Squid Game's really banking on its viewers loving dramatic irony because they're about to get 6 full episodes chock full of it.
송 사장님, 경찰은 안 돼요.
Potentially taking you can't trust cops advice from a criminal.
아니 제가 젊었을 때 사기를 당해서 모은 돈을 다 날렸는데
How I felt after subscribing to Netflix immediately after season 1 of Squid Game aired, only to have to wait a few years before getting to see season 2 somehow makes its way into the episode. Scene does not contain Lavelle Crawford and Bill Burr laying on this pile of money. Having as much money as Bruce Wayne, but an infinitely shittier Batcave. Shooting a gun without ear protection. Congrats on your tinnitus.
시간 날 때마다 와서 연습해 두세요.
Junho clearly heard a single gunshot from inside of his car, but no one notices AKs being fired off at the shooting range and calls the cops. Kids.
저녁은 먹었어?
네, 친구들이랑 햄버거 먹었어요.
그거 먹고 되겠어? 할머니가 고구마 짜놨어.
Episode expects me to remember who these people are enough to make me feel a feeling about them other than confusion. Rolling your window down for a strange man with a flashlight who refuses to show you his face or at least his badge. There are thousands of Lifetime movies that begin this way.
그래도 안사람 길인데 살아있으면 와서 꽃이라도 꽂아놨을 끼다.
Making assumptions, which only makes an ass out of you and shitty husbands who don't visit their wife's grave on their anniversary.
자기 콩팥까지 떼서 널 살려줬는데 나는 네 형수가 아파서 힘들어할 때 해준 게 하나도 없다.
Stealing your villain origin story from 1997's Batman and Robin. Leaving your sick kid alone in a crowd of people. It's not the 80s, sir. Learn how to be a more considerate parent. Also, this wasn't okay in the 80s either.
아니, 그래도 이렇게 갑자기 그만두면
Labor laws in South Korea actually protect a worker's right to quit whenever they wish, while requiring the employers follow strict requirements to dismiss an employee. So yes, she can quit suddenly, she just can't be fired suddenly. I wasn't around because I was going for the Kevin McAllister Parental Award. I feel like this incident has to make me the shoo-in. I get that Gi-hun is bent on vengeance, but if being so hardcore involves getting a molar pulled out without any painkillers, maybe redefine the definition of hardcore vengeance just a tad. She came all that way to drop off the girl's hat? She's clearly a great person. There is no plot reveal that would ever make me think otherwise about this person. Nope. And still no ear protection on the majority of these guys. What the f***? Guns are loud, people. Then why are they practicing their marksmanship in a creepy hotel instead of at a range? Or just, not at all, because they already know how.
황영은 섬에서 얼굴이 노출됐으니까 놈들이 먼저 알아볼 수도 있어요.
As opposed to being the guy who won the competition.
Who is calling? Hello? 아빠?
Calling someone and choosing to breathe creepily on the other end instead of just saying anything or simply hanging up.
그래서 후드에 검은 가면을 썼다고 했죠.
예.
아 그놈이 얼굴을 가리고 오려고 오늘을 잡은 거네.
Episode just made sure I knew it was Halloween so they could explain away no one giving a second glance to the random person in the Squid Game outfit. And that is 90 seconds of pointless setup that I will never have back. The only parties people have in movies and television are in clubs with glow sticks and annoying loud electronic music coming out of the speakers. Cliché.
가면! 야,
여기 지금 죄다 가면들이야.
This statement is simply not factual. Maybe half the people are wearing masks, and that's stretching it.
이것도 장난감 같아?
Junho will pay 0 penalties for pointing a gun into this innocent man who is just trying to do his job's chest.
핑크야 안 보여.
Then might I suggest, I don't know, taking off the giant horse head that you never needed in the first place? Lee Jung-jae's performance is per usual top-notch. However, it is really hard for me to take him leaning in this menacingly towards a f***ing golden pig. I'm only human, people.
세상에 맡기지 않는 한 게임은 끝나지 않아.
Using the don't hate the game, hate the unjust society we live in strategy to justify murder.
좀 더 기다리세요. 인적이 드문 곳에서 잡아야 합니다.
Wait, what? If they're trying to kidnap Frontman before he disappears back into the game or ends up dead, then who the f*** cares about more crowded/less crowded?
세상은 어차피 그런 곳이니 입 닥치고 그냥 살라는 건.
Usually for this mentality to work on the uncontrolled masses, there has to be entertainment, like a coliseum or a brutal Netflix show that mocks the lives we're forced to live in a late-stage capitalistic society. Is there a Squid Game show inside the Squid Game show?
아니면 날 납치라도 하려고 했던 건가?
I know this is supposed to be creepy and sinister, but once again, it's a f***ing golden pig, guys. This is a sin for shooting the glass twice and then stopping before you tried shooting through the seat. Maybe they got lazy and didn't bulletproof everywhere. Why give up now? Episode spends almost 20 seconds attempting to build tension on a scenario we already know the outcome to because we've seen Squid Game Season 1. Oh, and 1,000 other movies and TV shows that have done the exact same f***ing thing. Rolling down the window divide before the gas has done its thing and taking a chance on your driver getting knocked out before reaching the destination.
456번 게임에 돌아온 걸 환영하네.
Stealing the winner of previous deadly game is forced to replay said game in the sequel plot from Hunger Games, and retroactively giving multiple sins to Hunger Games for stealing all of its plot points from 1984 in Battle Royale. Nobody will be seated as the episode gives us a whopping 20 seconds of semi-trucks driving away in real time. Great reveal and all, but why do they have to get changed in the back of a semi-truck? They even have their own rooms at the Squid Game facility and everything. Is this the semi-truck of dramatic reveals? I've always wondered where they're kept.
프론트맨을 생포하는데 실패하면 어떻게든 게임성으로 잔입한다. 이거 성 사장이 계획한 플랜 B대로 되고 있는 거네.
Personifying your previous Leons. Once again, hundreds of people are knocked out for the duration of the trip to the island, ignoring the fact that putting someone to sleep and having them wake up again is a delicate science. And during this time, they're undressed, redressed, and placed into bunk beds, all so they can wake up at roughly the same time. Just look at all the magic you can get away with if you perform it off screen.
여기서 나가면 굿 한 번에.
If? How does she already know that this is an if situation when everyone else will be very shocked by all the killing that happens in the first game?
그래. 얼굴을 왜 가려?
Probably so it'll serve as a big plot twist later in the season. Come on, player 444. Are you the only person that didn't watch season 1?
그럼 핸드폰이라도 돌려주세요. 저 코인 시세 봐야 되거든요.
All of the words I just heard and the order in which this crypto douche yeeted them out.
돌아가서 남은 인생을 빚쟁이들에게 쫓기며 쓰레기처럼 사시겠습니까?
A piece of trash running from creditors was A, the name of my college ska band, B, my submission to the 2023 Turner Prize, C, my childhood recurring nightmare, or D, the title of my sex tape?
한 게임만 하고 나가도 상금을 받을 수 있다는 말인가요?
Why doesn't Gi-hun just tell them right now that they're going to be killed during the games? He doesn't know when his backup is arriving. It could be after the first game for all he knows. At the very least, shouldn't he start recruiting people to help him overthrow the games when his people do arrive?
게임에 참가를 원하시는 분은 동의서 하단에 사인을 해주시면 됩니다.
Pretending that these documents are going to hold up in court. Or that when the players start bleeding out in the middle of the games, they think to themselves, oh man, I wish I never signed that form.
사람 뺐다가 기사 뜨고 일커져.
Assuming that the shady masked people who drugged you and brought you to a secluded island would let anything there get on the news.
상황이 급해서 연락할 사람이 선장님밖에 없었어요.
Junho could buy a fleet of ships with all of Gi-hun's cash and leave this poor bastard alone. Methinks the show doth protest too much about keeping this fisherman in the story. Pretty sure that's how Shakespeare intended his work to be used.
정보야, 지금부터 무조건 내 뒤에 꼭 붙어 있어.
뭔 사이에 늦게 잊어가지고 뭘 붙어 있어 임마.
Gi-hun thinks there's not enough time in the day to say these are death games and the people eliminated are killed. Oh wait, I just said it. Didn't actually take that long after all, huh?
야씨 이게 사람이 다니는 데가 아닌데.
Thinking the inventor of rocks is interested in your patch notes.
샀어. 저기.
Believing that your boss was willingly kidnapped so he could expose the murder games he already survived, but actually had a hidden goal of wanting a quiet fishing trip. Also, why are you leading the hired killers from the front? The whole point of hiring men like that is for them to take any bullets for you. Delegation is the key to successful enterprise, whether it be in business or revenge. If I was Gi-hun, I'd have checked that tooth as soon as I woke up. And you know what? I'm doing more than one tracker too. Redundancies are important, whether it be in business or revenge. Also, it's over 22 minutes into the third episode before we started playing a proper game. Can you imagine going 22 minutes into The Lion King before seeing a lion? Ridiculous! Don't even get me started on the lack of squids. I'd keep the dental implant though. That's a big masticator right there, and he might need it if he survives. Yeah, I know he'll survive. He's the main character, and we know there's a season 3 coming. I just enjoy flexing my sinister voice. Doesn't get as much airtime as my cynicism voice.
저 인간 일부러 사람들 겁주고 지 혼자 상금 먹으려고 저러는 것 같은데요.
But what he's saying will help you all win the game. It's not like he's saying red lights are oppression and must be ignored in the name of freedom. Telling someone to not be alarmed or panicked when your voice is the epitome of panicked alarmedness. Fearing a creature that is generally harmless. If you leave bees alone, they'll just leave you alone. Now, if it's a wasp or a hornet, f it, man. Just shoot me dead. Just make sure you take the bastard down with me. Waiting this long to follow instructions. From returning the hats of little kids to removing the hats from grown men. Oh, how I thought I knew you, new character, whose name I have forgotten. Alright, I have no idea what the f this creepy jazz band is about. I already hate the guy. I didn't require a clearly heinous love of jazz puppetry to cement the sentiment.
산내 못 가면 어차피 죽어! 저 인형은 동작을 감지하는 장치야!
Sorry, I'm calling bullshit on that thing not being able to detect any movement from Gi-hun. His shouts are making him twitch like crazy. Badass imaginary cape or no? Ding! Thanos isn't immediately shot for talking or raising his eyebrows multiple times.
저 아니에요!
You did, and currently are.
야, 기훈아. 뭐냐, 미친놈같이 생긴 인형. 눈에서 막 총 쏘던데.
Not paying attention. Why are you not paying attention? What else do you have to do other than to pay attention besides running and stopping for your life? That is.
저희는 여러분을 해치려는 게 아닙니다.
Lying. That's an OG sin. They put that one on a stone and everything.
게임의 속행을 원하시면 동그라미, 중단을 원하시면 X를 눌러주시면 됩니다.
Nothing like democracy worming its way into my murder game show. What's next? Combining the Great British Baking Show with some light filibustering?
니들이 이 세상에 날 때를 알 수 없었듯이 떠날 때도 니들이 결정할 수 없어.
True, but you can decide whether or not to play in traffic.
니들이 죽을 곳과 시간은 태어날 때부터 천지신명께서 정하시는 것이야.
Like, collectively? Did certain gods make those decisions? How many and which ones? Was it unanimous? Are we going to be forced to sit through that vote too? Voting montage, voting montage, voting montage, and more voting montage. At least this will probably only happen once this season, right? What's up with everyone in this show not wiping the blood off of their face? It's gotta be irritating and itchy.
게임도 하기 전에 총질한다고 컵부터 주지 않나?
You warned us that the ice caps were gonna melt, and then they did, you bastard.
그래도 이 친구 덕분에 우리가 정신 차려가지고 거기서 안 걸리고 살아남은 건데.
Not necessarily. Some of you still would have won without his aid. It would have been less, sure, but not all the wins can be attributed to him.
소리 하고 있네. 혼자 우승했으면 456억을 벌었다는 건데 그런 놈이 여길 왜 다시 기어들어와?
The character who is 10 billion won in debt apparently finds it hard to believe that someone could blow 45.6 billion won. As if Gi-hun couldn't have won the game years ago and spent it all on rich people like castles, social media platforms, and elections.
여기 우승한 사람도 있는데 뭐가 걱정이야?
A previous winner who was unable to save any of the people he was competing with. I'd say his prior experience just trashed your odds of winning, if anything.
7번.
Thinking it'd be fair to the other players to put James Bond in your game. People say this show has a deep social commentary at its core, but all I see is an evenly divided group between red and blue, with one half cheering and the other looking distraught based on a vote they make at regular intervals. Spell it out for me, squid people. Frontman has put himself in the game. Sure is lucky that Jun-ho is committed to protecting the identity of his murderous brother. Gi-hun would have immediately recognized him and been robbed of the many moral quandaries that are no doubt coming. Look how perfectly horrible this turned out for everyone. These comedically gift-wrapped coffins could have used a season 2 glow-up. Maybe a nice matte burgundy with a champagne glitter ribbon. You know, something that says, I'm classy, but I'm also fun.
저 아까 선생님 때문에 동그라미 눌렀어요.
Title of my PlayStation tape?
365명이 다 성공하면은 상금은 한 푼도 안 늘어나.
Some health insurance executive, probably.
애기 생각해서 더 먹어요.
Grandmother figure can't help but feed a complete stranger cliche.
그 사람들을 선생님이 죽이신 것도 아니고.
Ki-hun is not immediately suspicious about 001 dropping knowledge only someone who watched the previous season should know.
당신은 마지막에 X만 눌렀어도 최소한 여기 있는 사람들은 살아서 나갈 수 있었습니다.
맞아요. 제가 마지막에 동그라미를 눌렀죠. 그렇지만 저 말고도 여기 남으려는 사람들이 182명이나 더 있었고요.
This guy would be the front man at TV games.
X를 눌러서 여기를 나갔으면 사람들이 정말로 좋아했을까요?
Trying to cater to people who think happiness is a warm gun pointed at them. Tempting me to make another Beatles reference.
그 코인 때문에 망한 건 나도 마찬가지야.
The inner monologue of Hawk to a Girl somehow makes it into the episode. Creeper peepin' on the sleeper sleepin'.
안 주무시면 잠깐 얘기 좀 나눌 수 있을까요?
Ki-hun, seated with his eyes open and looking at you, makes the if you're still up line excessive and unnecessary questions position.
저 돈이 꼭 필요합니다. 저게 남의 목숨값이라고 그래도 지금 저 돈으로 제 와이프하고 애기.
Lee Byung-hun absolutely kills in this scene, metaphorically. He gives us this heartbreaking monologue that cuts through the fact that he's secretly the front man and makes us feel that he's carrying around some very real pain. It's not possible and doesn't make sense, given all I know, but I kind of want him to be the final winner of the games this season. Show does a jump cut so unholy that it's safer for me to show you the poop soup scene from Game of Thrones. Decorating your elevator with 3D wall panels instead of a classy matte burgundy with a champagne glitter ribbon. Not Googling orange doors before installing orange doors, so you could see how hideous it is to have orange doors. The same goes for those Pepto-Bismol walls.
The line must be drawn here.
숨이 붙어 있는 것들을 네가 직접 확인 사살까지 했다면서.
제가 맡은 일을 했을 뿐입니다.
Oh, yeah, there's a B-plot they keep trying to make a thing. Showrunner said, have this guy smoking and drinking at the same time. This way we'll know that his taste buds and throat feel like he swallowed a cactus, and that he's an asshole.
저격총 하나로 추격자를 다 쏴 죽이고 혼자 휴전선 경계까지 뚫고 내려왔다는 게 믿을 수가 없었어.
Telling me about things you could have shown me in the first episode instead of whatever this was. This beverage did nothing to deserve this.
이 자식은 도대체 몇 년째 되도 않는 소리 하는 거야? 그럼 증거를 가져와 임마!
Yeah, evidence. Like those sniper bullets from the cars that were shot at in episode 2. Or the remnants of the bomb that was attached to the underside of your car. Maybe even pictures of any of that would be more effective than just yelling at your ex-boss. Not giving me the satisfaction of Ki-hun taking control of this dream and punching this man right in the nose.
기억 안 나? 네가 나한테도 사라고 했어.
Holy sh*! Is there anybody in this room who didn't take crypto advice from this guy? Giving your game a contraband policy that allows for hallucinogens, but not my aromatherapy candle and weighted blanket.
뭔데요?
잘 모르겠습니다.
뭐야? 당신 다 해봤다며?
This whole the game is different back and forth goes on for all the this shouldn't be a surprise for anyone, especially not Ki-hun, amounts of some time.
말뚝박기 오징어 이런 거 안 그래?
Roll squid commercials.
그럼 인피니티 스톤은 다 모았고?
Of course.
No, since you've chosen to attach them to the tips of the fingers on your gauntlets, you're missing one. And putting it on the other hand only proves your lack of commitment to the bit.
What's up? Nice to meet you, my brother. Welcome to the Thanos world.
It should have been fairly obvious to this group that half of them weren't going to make it.
이야, 해병이 3명이면 천하무적이지.
Zhongbei has never encountered a Monkey D. Luffy, and it shows.
이번 게임은 5인 6각, 근대 5종 경기입니다.
A game with 5 people and 5 minigames ends up with 6 legs because 8 of the legs have to be tied together, forming 4 super legs. I'm not saying one of the legs should just be cut off so the game description can have 3-fold rotational symmetry, but I'm not saying it either.
요즘 여자애들은 공기를 안 하나?
Assuming that anyone plays Gongji anymore. I mean, iPads and computers exist.
제가 공기 조금 합니다.
공기를 한다고? 해병대요?
4녀 1남 중에 막내라 누나들이 많아갖고 어릴 때부터 조금씩 했었습니다.
그래. 해병이 못하는 게 어딨어?
Except maybe overcome the gender-based stereotype of a kid's game, it seems.
기훈 씨가 정해주는 걸로 할게요.
제 이름은
저기 친구분이 이름 부르시길래 저도 그냥 따라해봤는데.
Given Gi-hun's past experience in Season 1, his knowledge of how Il-nam infiltrated the games for fun, and just knowing that someone checked his teeth for trackers, I feel safe giving him a sin for not being paranoid enough.
게임을 시작합니다.
Game show takes 45 minutes to show a game. These squid holes burn something like 1.67% of the game clock every time they prematurely celebrate.
공기돌이는 각 단계를 통과해서 한 번에 5개를 모두 잡으면 성공입니다.
Giving directions after play has started, like you're one of the latter entries in the Saw franchise. Sports ball fans. Is this guy winding this rope with urgency or practicing shibari? Debate.
내가 있을 자리는 천지신명님께서 정해주시는 자리.
Setting up the gods of heaven and earth to take the blame for your bad choices. It took an extra 26 seconds of runtime for the 5-minute timer to go off, and they still failed. Squid Game character realizes that hindsight is 20/20 cliche. Expressing the beauty and vibrance of this little experiment we call democracy. This blood has been on Thanos since the last episode. He has eaten, slept, and taken illicit candy, all without washing his face. Gross continuity is gross. Derisive enablers.
민수야, 이순신 장군이 뭐라 그랬어? 살고자 하면 뒤지고 뒤지려고 하면 산다고.
But eventually he died. So
선녀야, 용공선녀.
it's your fault that someone now considers themselves the shaman of internet TV criticism.
여기 뒤에 있는 사람들한테 이런 게임 아무것도 아니라는 거야.
Trying to convince anyone that the games they just saw kill 10 people are no big deal.
뒤집어서 쳐봐요. 뒤집어서.
Backseat duck cheers.
벌을 주워가지고 돌아올 때는 저렇게 하면 시간을 좀 줄일 수 있겠네요.
Look, Squid Game is as cleverly written as most anything streaming/airing. However, sometimes it just likes to point out the obvious with its dialogue. And this is one of those times.
노름판에서 너한테 사기치는 면상이라고 생각해봐.
Believing that hatred and death wishes lead to better aiming skills. If that were true, we'd all be perfect bowlers, and that free pitcher of the cheapest beer on tap you just won would begin to lose its meaning.
엄마, 그 컴퓨터를 아버지가 그때 바람핀 여자 머리끄댕이라고 생각해.
썩을
Only blaming the mistress for infidelity when it took two to tango.
포기하면 너는 천지신명이 아니라 내 손에 먼저 죽어.
This works. Team completes the task with the last second ticking off the clock as they cross the finish line. Cliché. This montage obstacle course is on for all the some time. Letting the stone guy be responsible for the game that requires solid balance. Why not let him throw the stone instead?
전 우리 팀 믿습니다. 또 여기 우승자도 계시니까.
The previous winner who never did this particular challenge? That previous winner?
배우야, 침착하게.
Jinxing your teammate before they even start. Frontman flagrantly false tensions us, but we know the tension is false because we've seen an episode of Squid Game before. It is not. Why was this guy's hand in player 456's face? There's no line here they have to avoid stepping across like in the rock throwing game. Was he worried Gi-hun was gonna suddenly make a run for it?
아, 씨발 존나 많이 살았어.
Stealing your lines of dialogue from Dwight Schrute.
넌 몇 살이야?
저 98이요.
Answering a how old are you question in a way that forces said asker to do math.
엄마, 그만 좀 물어봐. 뭘 그렇게 남의 얘기를...
Being nosy is like 95% of what most mothers do. You might as well ask her to stop trying to feed everyone.
어쩐지 그다지.
Trying to grow up a stranger when you find out they've had breast augmentation. Or really, just groping strangers in general. Let's just not do that.
혼놈도 아닌데 뛰기도 잘하고.
Backhanded compliments.
강대호입니다. 큰 대자에 호랑이 호자.
Explaining what your name means when no one asked. And especially if no one even asked what your name was in the first place. I understand the remaining contestants are interested to know what the amount of money is currently, but also part of this equation is the math of it all, which I cannot stand by and watch people show any interest in without sinning.
여기서 나가면은 다들 우리 집서 밥 한 끼 하면 어때요?
If we get out? Always good to start the meal invitation with the possibility that one will be brutally murdered before they can enjoy the meal.
아니 다들 어떻게 이렇게 가깝게 살아?
Is it all that surprising? What has Zhang witnessed to make her believe any of these players have been extracted from outside the general area?
저도 이제 그만할 겁니다.
Thing I tell myself during a Netflix binge before inevitably continuing on for another 4 episodes and hating myself at work the next morning somehow makes it into the episode. Non-consensual massages.
이번 투표는 1번부터 시작하겠습니다.
Another 8 minutes of the players voting. Awesome.
너랑 나랑 합치면은 1억 5천이 넘어. 그걸로 네 빚 다 갚고.
Episode builds false tension by having a character give false assurance to his mother. One could argue the episode is pressing its luck. F***ing double whammy, guys. Disrespecting someone's religion. I mean, wait. Religion. Not sure what that hand gesture means. Maybe don't forget the telescope? What does that have to do with anything?
사람들이 그렇게 죽어나가는 꼴을 보고도 이걸 또 하겠다고?
Another person giving a rah-rah speech during 8 minutes of the players voting. Awesome.
내가 장사하다가 지금 빚이 5억이 넘거든요.
We're already aware that Squid Game is essentially justifying murder, the TV show. And because we already know that, we don't need to hear people whine about why they're in or want to be out of the game. Less of the boo-hooing and more of the squid gaming and murdering, please.
내가 장사하다가 지금 빚이 5억이 넘거든요.
We're going looking into bankruptcy protections and jumping right into squid gaming.
다들 게임 잘 했고, 그래서 여기 살아있고.
Forgetting that the last round was a team challenge, where it's less about how well you play and more about not getting stuck with awful teammates. Thanking your captors.
누나는 안 무서워요?
Scared of me saying skip? Because you should be skip.
내 사채랑 하우스에서 땡긴 건데 다음 달까지 못 갚으면은 큰일 나.
More trouble than you're in right now?
한 판만 더 하고.
This episode is 63% just one more game. Open-mouthed mastication.
그쵸. 이게 내 잘못이라고만 할 수는 없는 거잖아요.
Thinking that being partially to blame for something bad happening is somehow better than being fully to blame for something bad happening.
진짜 웬만한 여자들보다 더 늘씬하고 이쁜 애들이.
Guy's clearly trying to be supportive, but ranking trans women by hotness is still f***ing creepy. Although, I guess in a way, that is true gender equality being achieved for trans women, to be objectified by men like any other woman. Am I woke incorrectly?
언니도 예뻐요.
Who put these f***ing onions in my recording booth? I'm not crying, you're crying. Wow, I haven't seen someone stare this hard at a dick since my roommate showed us his Nightwing comics collection. Not providing hand soap for contestants to wash their hands. The water alone does no good. You can kill players, but I'd draw the line of forcing them into bad hygiene.
아직도 저놈들이 괴롭혀요?
Asking this after watching those guys clearly bully him.
엄마 꼭 5번쯤에 가더라.
Memorizing mom's toilet schedule.
까부는 놈들이 있으면 확.
You know what would scare them more? Actually stabbing them. Hand gestures are scary too, I guess.
여자야. 어? 이름도 현지야.
Who is she saying this to? Because she's facing Hyunju as this line is spoken. Is she reminding Hyunju that she's a woman? Because I think she already knows that.
그래서 다시 들어온 거야. 이번에 다 같이 나가려고.
There's at least 226 people that would argue Gi-hun has already lost that battle.
화장실도 혼자 못 가다 질질 짤 것 같은데.
Ah, yes, the most well-known human biological drawback. You can't cry and pee at the same time. It's physically impossible.
계속 영 딴 사람 같더니.
It's almost like trauma changes people.
선장님이 뭐 노래하고 춤이라도 춰줄 건가?
Walking away before finding out if the captain is going to sing and dance for you.
빚이 얼마인지 모르지만 너도 잘 생각해. 난 여기서 오래 못 버텨.
At worst, he's lasted longer than a little over half the contestants. Say me doesn't insult correctly. Storing all the guns in what look like high school lockers. How have players not gotten to any of these guns before? Episode spends 24 seconds showing people walk upstairs in real time. What is this, House of the Dragon?
괜찮아요. 다 같이 잘해서 이번 게임 끝나고 같이 나가면 되잖아요.
Consoling oneself with the thought of getting out of a hairy situation with your friends intact, but everyone else brutally murdered.
이번 게임은 짝짓기 게임입니다.
Just realizing if this was a line of dialogue in an episode of Dune Prophecy, this would mean that we are literally about to watch a group of people make chit-chat for the next 45 minutes.
아 이거 우리 어릴 때 소풍 가서 했던 그거랑 비슷한 거네. 몇 명 부르면 서로 껴안는 거.
껴안는 거 대신에 저 방으로 들어가는 거네요.
Because once someone's in a room, they are no longer able to hug. Waving your arms in the air and Thanosing them around like you just don't care. So close, but your 30 seconds on the clock was actually closer to 39 seconds. Better luck next round.
네 명줄이 타고난 것보다 더 긴 이유가 있었구나.
Soothsayers who say sooths that are intriguing but completely unhelpful in the current life or death situation. Episode doesn't deliver on the promised hugs and kisses. Oh no, that one was 46 seconds. Careful, episode, that's 2 strikes, 1 more wrong answer, and I'll have to kick you out of the sin cab. Premature speculation. With all the blood here, I'm thinking the real workplace drama has to do with how many slip and fall related injuries they must be sweeping under the rug.
다음에 만약에 6명을 부르면 그냥 우리 이대로 오케이 아닌가?
왜요? 아 미안해.
6명.
Ha 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 ha. I will take all the sins back if the baby wins this year's games, since these guys sure don't stand a chance if they think this is the time or place for dad humor. Okay, I'm not doing the voice this time. That one was 58 seconds. This episode is clearly not even trying to win this game. Young-sik thinks his logical appeal to reason will be heard over all the screaming and yelling, so the sin is, as always, social media.
시간이 얼마 없었는데 246번 아저씨가 딱 하고 나타났어요. 백마탄 왕자님처럼요.
Prince Charming's story had nothing to do with showing up as someone ran out of time. All he did was kiss an unconscious girl on the lips before killing the coolest character in the story. Title of my polyamorous Noah's Ark tape?
이번엔 몇 명이나 부를 것 같냐?
2명.
왜요?
남은 사람 수가 126명. 여기 방은 50개. 2명씩 다 들어가도 100명이니까 사람 수보다 방이 부족해요.
Gah! Math. If they had math problems like these when I was growing up and my life was literally on the line, I would still have failed. Stupid math. But is it math? Maybe he knows because he set up all the games himself, and therefore it is not math. It is pretend math, which I also hate. Kids, I see you using slow motion to heartily, fishily, goosily the tension. That guy's neck snapped easier than a background character on the Vampire Diaries. Needlessly burning fuel, so your organ stealing can also contribute to global warming.
숙소로 돌아가면 남은 사람들 숫자를 파악해보자.
Further traumatizing the recently traumatized by asking them to do math.
동그라미 쪽에서 더 많이 주고길 바라야겠네요.
A politician during the pandemic. Probably.
네, 이거 이름이 뭐라고?
드론이요, 드론.
드론. 아우, 좋네.
Including a whole damn scene for the singular purpose of talking about drones.
저게 그 무당이 아니라 그냥 도른년일세, 어?
False dichotomies aside, never rule out the possibility that she could be cake.
이 상금이요.
More trauma. I mean math.
저거 뭐야? 이거 문인가?
Now the episode takes a detour from death gaming to build tension with the discovery of a door, giving Strep Throat the opportunity to kill you before the Squid Game overlords can. Also, Netflix decided to give people what they wanted by pumping an extra 30 minutes of voting scenes into the season.
지하로 통하는 문인 것 같습니다.
Needless exposition that explains where the door in the ground leads. Premature emancipation celebration.
영일씨 말이야. 왜? 아니요, 그게 아까 방에서
Character can't get the seemingly important information to come out of their damn mouth. Cliche.
근데 영일씨 난 좀 무서워.
뭐가요?
말하기가 좀 그런데 아까 마지막 게임 때 방에서
We both killed people. He snapped a guy's neck, which was disturbing, but also kind of impressive, and I held the door closed, ensuring the death of the person outside along with my survival. There was a subjective implication that what he did was more brutal, but in the end, we have the same amount of blood on our hands. That is what you were going to say, right? Right, Jungbae?
근데 저랑 함정까지 파놓은 거 보면 이미 우리 동선을 다 알고 있다는 건데.
Thinking traps are all about you. There could be plenty of boobies out there that they're trying to get their hands on. Wait.
난 무슨 말을 하다가 나온 거야?
응?
What do you mean, what? Are you a goldfish? And yes, I know the goldfish memory thing's a myth, but it's still a helpful insult.
아니다, 뭐 사람이 이상하겠어. 여기가 이상한 거지.
True, but there's being stressed out and there's breaking a man's neck while staring off into the middle distance with dead eyes stressed out. You're only conflating the two so the episode can frustratingly dangle the revelation of the front man around Gi-hun. Also, show will never capitalize on all this effort it put into making Jung-bae the world's worst communicator by having them play charades.
아니 아까 그 정배우님 또 이상한 소리 해가지고
일단
Putting your strep tentacles all over someone's food mouth.
다음 게임에서 니들 몽땅 뒤지면 우리는 각자 8억씩 가지고 나갈 수 있어.
The thing millennials say about boomers behind closed doors somehow makes it into the episode.
한우 먹을 수 있습니다. 까짓 거 그냥 제가 다 쏘겠습니다.
8억이면 아예 한우 목장을 차리고도 남아.
Everyone except for you. You'll still owe 9.2 billion won. I think you should just let James Bond here buy you a dinner.
집에 가고 싶다는 새끼들이 왜 김밥을 처먹어? 전부 다 굶고 갈 새끼들아!
That makes no sense. There is no causation or correlation in that statement. This overt fork with gimbap is unnecessary. I have a scar that confirms you can be stabbed with a chopstick.
I'm sorry, boy.
민수야.
People who give off the same vibes as pop-up ads when you're just trying to look at funny memes on the crapper.
이거 투표 방해야.
Is that what we're calling it now? I'm going to have to stop telling people that I like to rock the vote after my morning coffee. Humans under duress inevitably regress into violent factions. Cliché. Is Thanos trying to choke Myung-gi to death, or is he bringing balance to his lower intestines by expelling half of its contents? Debate. Aggressive forkings, which lead to unwelcome facial bloodcockies, and the lubeless sins I have to write about them. I can't confirm if it was perpetrated by the actor or the character, but I'm sending this absolutely hilarious miskick. gendering your shapes.
개새끼들이 씨발!
Humanity living in a world where the sentence, those fucking ex-bastards tried to kill all of us, doesn't feel all that surreal.
니들이 먼저 우리 편 죽였어.
Forgetting to turn the other tentacle.
자, 여러분! 인원 점검 좀 해봅시다.
Math.
거기서 지금 뭐 하시는 거예요?
Convenient vomiting, which leads to discovery of traitor, is convenient for everyone other than the vomiter and the poor bastards at home who are forced to watch him vomit.
아니 내가 잠이 안 와가지고 뭐 좀 찾다가.
Being able to deceive Junho for multiple years when this is the caliber of your suspicious activity defense.
당신 뭐야, 진짜?
Sog Shank re-swim them.
저 동그라미 새끼들 뭔가 수상한데요. 뭔가 지들끼리 작당 모의하는 것 같은데.
Right? It's almost like they're doing the same math you just did and came to the same conclusion regarding the vote and might also be planning to fix that situation. Don't feel bad that you missed it. I'm just making a very reasonable deduction based on exactly the same information that you have.
괜찮을까요? 아까 화장실에서 진짜 장난 아니었다는데.
Needing confirmation of craziness from a vague they when you've just confirmed 5 deaths happened, at least one of them via sushi fork.
계단 위쪽에 이 게임을 컨트롤하는 놈들과 시설이 있어요.
Gi-hun has no idea what's on the upper levels. It could be more games or prisons or a Walmart for all he knows. Isn't it just as likely that the control rooms are underground or that this place is being managed from a remote location entirely? Gi-hun shouldn't be planning an insurrection with guesswork presented as facts.
그놈을 잡으면 우리가 이길 수 있어요.
Again, Gi-hun's confidence here is completely unwarranted. He has no clue how important the front man truly is to the games. There could be a dozen front people who are disposable. Also, win what? I mean, your freedom, sure, but for most of these people, freedom means going back to being massively in debt. Other than Gi-hun, who appears to be letting his newfound privilege get the better of him.
뺏으면 돼.
가면들한테요?
No, from all the other people you've seen walking around with guns, disposable character created purely to ask stupid questions.
조용히 침대 밑으로 이동하세요. 우리를 공격하려는 놈들에게.
I must have missed that diplomatic conference episode where Under the Beds was designated as a demilitarized zone. Must have been cut in favor of more voting. Show is either trying to distract me from the senseless killing with a strobe light-induced migraine, or trying to distract me from my strobe light-induced migraine with some senseless killing.
대의를 위해서 작은 희생은 감수하자는 건가요?
Protagonist has to make a tough call, which results in innocent deaths or Spock dying of radiation poisoning. Cliché. Not providing your employees with elevator music. That's one of the best parts of being in an elevator, aside from doing some mute tooting and watching everyone try to figure out who did it.
이러면 우리도 저 가면 쓴 놈들과 다를 게 없어요.
Gi-hun's stance is very clear. There will be no killing of strangers who tried to kill you because they were told to, unless they're strangers wearing masks who were told to kill you by someone Gi-hun doesn't like. There never seems to be that many squid troopers hanging around during the game, so what are all of these people doing when there isn't an uprising to quash? Just hanging out in their rooms? Feels like their numbers just doubled because the finale suddenly requires some faceless squid fodder for the heroes to kill.
우리 이곳을 가둔 놈들을 잡아서 이 게임을 끝내고 그 죄값을 치르게 할 겁니다.
Hope the production team ordered enough squid sashimi to satisfy the sudden arrival of a Hunger Games.
총기를 다룰 줄 아는 분들 중에서 저희와 함께 가실 분들은 앞으로 나와주세요.
Thinking experience is a viable substitute for trust.
같이 집에 갑시다. 다 같이요.
But they don't want to go home with you, my friend. That's what this entire season has been about. Should be pretty fucking clear that the O's are quite happy to let you go ahead and get killed so that they can claim more prize money. Also, I can't believe they're willing to arm the O's at all. Time and again, they voted for money, not justice. You know they are more likely to turn those weapons on you rather than a system they're actually rather fond of.
각자 무전기 하나씩 소지하겠습니다. 주파수는 행운의 7번으로 하겠습니다.
It's so lucky that we won't even need to bother doing something smart, like listening in on the other channels to see if we can hear what the squid guards are doing. Wait, they didn't have any guards stationed at this door? Okay, they retreated, but since then the Rebel Alliance has neatly organized their guns, had an MP5 for Squidiots lesson, and a powwow about who's joining the revolution. Surely that's enough time to send an army down to cover this corridor, aka tactical bottleneck. Wasting ammunition. Hope you enjoy the progressive tones of an MP5 as much as I do, people, because that will score most of the next 30 minutes. This look of recognition suggests he knows this is Frontman and is surprised by his presence. But how does he know this is Frontman? Isn't anonymity the whole point of the masks? Or was this square face on the cliff edge at the end of season 1 too? In that case, I demand a confirmational flashback, which I would then also send. Bullets fired directly by the writers. Presumably all of these stairs over and up here are accessible by the squid guards, so why aren't they shooting from there? It's all right here in the Obi-Wan mantra of fighting things. Isn't this the sort of thing that's pretty easy to override though? Can't they just turn this door off or remove the mask's access like a key card? These people have so many buttons at their disposal. There must be a way.
너는 여기 씨랑 오면 되지 왜 날 걸 보냐?
그래도 네가 내 친구잖아.
Having friends like Gi-hun. All the evidence suggests that this guard was very quick to shoot the head off of one of his own people.
바지주머니에도 탄창했어.
This is news to you? Meaning, when you were collecting gear back at the bunks, you found some ammo in the radios, but didn't bother to search a single pink pocket? Never mind. These finales always have endless ammo, so I'm sure it won't become a vital plot point or anything. Either this is an order that should have been given a while ago, or these guys were all performing a very important task in here that has now been abandoned.
제가 할게요. 저 총알이 없어요. 이거 가져가요. 가는 길에 가면들이 있을 수도 있어요.
Wait, his logic was that he would go because he's out of ammo and is therefore no use in this fight. But now he has a gun, so that he can fight his way back? Listen, I didn't believe for a second that they were winning this fight, so I don't think we needed the ammo is held up by the one traumatized soldier subplot to seal their doom.
저놈들은 눈치채면 밀고 내려올 거야. 대우가 올 때까지 버티려면.
Using the we're low on fuel plot from the Star Wars movie that shall not be named to goose your tension.
뭐하려고? 탄창 가져오게.
I'm beginning to think that this facility wasn't just inspired by MC Escher, but that they've actually found a way to physically alter the human perspective of space. I can't fathom how else Gi-hun manages to survive this.
쟤 뭐야?
Asking this question to someone who has the exact same amount of information as you do. I'm watching the movie at the same time as you, Mom.
나보다 먼저 죽으면은 나한테 죽을 줄 알아 너.
If the thing happens to you, then I'll make sure the same thing happens again, but by my hands, comical redundancy cliche.
걱정 마, 너보다 오래 살 거니까.
Scene does not contain Gi-hun looking directly into the camera and telling the audience Jong-bae is deader than our tax should be.
올라오면서 여기 구조로부터 봤는데 분명히 뒤로 돌아가는 길이 있을 겁니다.
I know there's a lot going on, but Gi-hun doesn't question Young-il's ability to leave his body, get an aerial view of the layout of this place, and confidently claim to know there's an alternate entrance.
여기서 내면 들려요? 여기서 여기요? 여기서 들려요?
In a very generic shooty-shooty finale, I do love that there's at least one character, be they Marine or not, who is struggling with being in an all-out firefight. Surprise, war ain't as fun as them movies make it out to be. Oh no, nameless contestant 1 and 2, you have been betrayed. Please pause while I take precisely 3 seconds to mourn their tragic / relatable / entirely missing backstory and relevance.
정리 시작해.
I'm confused by who exactly is in on the whole undercover frontman thing. This guard seems super shocked, but when he comes on the radio, they're all ready to take his orders, as if it's not weird that he's been missing for a few days and suddenly back, giving orders.
항복합시다. 어떻게든 살아야죠.
Assuming the Geneva Convention applies to the highly illegal death games you're trying to overthrow. Frontman shoots an important character in the finale of Squid Game. Cliché. Trying to compete with the boys for most depressing season finale of 2024. The world's already a dumpster fire. We don't need that much doom and gloom in our TV show endings. Post-credit scenes that spoil the one character whose backstory I'm interested in by introducing a man from their past trying to steal their job. Sure, he's got a degree from Harvard, but she's got street smarts, a fiery determination, and a mother who's impossible to please. But will she finally let her guard down enough to give him the green light and discover the one thing she's been missing the most? Coming fall 2025, Sandra Bullock and Ryan Gosling in A Squid is Born. No. Squidless in Squidaddle. No, that's definitely worse. When Harry Met Squidly. Look, if you don't want me to fill in the gaps, stop with your vague post-credit scenes that stomp on your actual cliffhanger. Serensquidity.
And may the odds be ever in your favor.
Hi, I'm Saul Goodman. Did you know that you have rights?
Mother, you're alive. Too bad you will die.
As I was going to St. Ives, I met a man with 7 wives. Every wife had 7 sacks. Every sack has 7 cats. Every cat has 7 kittens. Kittens, cats, sacks, and wives. How many were going to St. Ives?
Now let's go sell some certified pre-owned vehicles, motherfucker.
Show me the way to go home. I'm tired and I wanna go to bed.
First, distract target, then block his blind jab. Counter with cross to left cheek. Discombobulate.
Oh, it's very simple. Scissors cuts paper, paper covers rock, rock crushes lizard, lizard poisons Spock.
I gotta do it, man. Mexico.
It's I have something for him. A gift.
Say ah.
매트릭스라는 영화 하나. 파란 약을 먹고 편히 살면 될 텐데 굳이 빨간 약을 먹고 영웅 흉내를 내는 인간들이 나오지. That'll do, pig.
Rise and shine, Sammy. You're gonna need a bigger boat.
지금 작업 거는 거야?
Thinking of you's working up my appetite. Looking forward to a little afternoon delight.
1, 2. Wait, that just kind of came out on its own.
Yeah, that slipped right out, huh?
I barely pulled that. I barely pulled it.
들어오는 분들은 통과입니다.
You shall not pass!
I'm Batman.
Let's start over, okay? Let's start over. Let's pretend this never happened.
Do you like ham? This is like ham, but it's not ham.
I watch you when you sleep.
Careful, it's hot.
I met her in a club down in Old Soho.
No one's gonna die. I've had that boat for 10 years at this point.
It is possible to commit no mistakes and still lose.
Over the hills and far away, Teletubbies come to play.
Do a series of leg and arm poses.
Of course.
Hello, hello, hello.
There she was just walking down the street.
You're ignoramus.
Yes, so
Good. I can feel your anger.
If I can change, then you can change. Everybody can change.
Maybe we should try taking it forward again.
Stop it.
Collaborate and listen.
You have made it through yet another game in the series. Congratulations to you all.
Well, the bad news is you're fired.
You don't know what that order is, Mr. Trask. I'd show you, but I'm too old. I'm too tired. I'm too blind. If I were the man I was 5 years ago, I'd take a flamethrower to this place.
Snack time!
It's a very dangerous world out there.
경주! Front kick! Front kick!
If we have to form groups of 6 next round, then we won't need anyone else. Why? Oh, because the baby.
An astute observation has led to laughter. Get 4 women and 2 men. Go! Giggity.
Front kick!
Yeah, but I'm not dead, right?
Open the package, Leo.
Okay.
How you doing? You can push through it, right?
Yeah, I could never feel better.
I feel 10 feet tall right now. And strong as an ox. Who the is this guy? Hey, who the are you? Huh? Who the are you? What the hell are you doing in here so late?
I'm looking at porn. So how are we supposed to get the guns?
Well, I guess I'm gonna take it from you.
Our Father, art who is up in heaven, aloe vera be thy name.
Look at me. I'm the captain now.